Okay, this is Child Development 87, and this is Connecting with Colleagues, Tier 1A. All right. And so, whoops, get over to the right tab. So many tabs. All right, here we are. So, again, this is collaborating with colleagues. So, how did it go this week? I know I just posted it yesterday, so maybe you guys haven't been able to work through the information yet. Um, I wanted to make sure 2 weeks ago, I had a lot of questions about, well, can I do this all by myself? What if I'm the only one who's working on this in my classroom? And so by now, what do you guys think? Do you think you could do this in your classroom all by yourself? I see a lot of faces like maybe looks hard. Yeah, it's always going to be easier with more people, right? But something that Linda Brault, she's a trainer. She always says she gets a lot of complaints that people say working at using the teaching pyramid takes a lot of work and a lot of time. And she says, "Yeah, you're right, but so does children with challenging behaviors, right? They take a lot of time too." And so, do you want to go home tired because you had an inspiring day where you helped children do their best and learn a lot? Or do you want to go home tired because you were fighting with a child who had challenging behaviors all day? So, and so that kind of helps put things in perspective, huh? Um, Anybody else have anything to add? Right, right. So that is kind of surprising. I'm going to repeat for the recording. You said that this is the first time in your training, in your ECE classes, where there's something that the staff can unify under some core values. And I'm really surprised because you should be working the PITC, which is the Program for Infant Toddler Care, and then whatever framework your school uses. So it's going to be creative curriculum or Reggio or High Scope, but it's usually creative curriculum is the big one in this area. There's Montessori. So usually they're supposed to be unifying under um, some core values. A lot of times it's project work because creative curriculum and Reggio and High Scope, all of those are project based frameworks. And so, in that respect, we're all focusing on the interests of the children and building curriculum that's integrated with all the learning domains. And again, from the perspective of whatever framework that school is using. Um, you, if you want to be, here I am again with my administrator hat. If you want to be funded from by California, you have to write in the paperwork somewhere when you apply for the funding, you have to tell them what evidence based framework you use at your center. And so for a while there, they weren't accepting PITC because that's not technically a framework, because you can use PITC with any framework. And so they weren't accepting that for a long time. But I think now they accept PITC for the infants and toddlers. Um, and my favorite, which is it's rare to see it, but it's RIE, Resources for Infant Educators. And it's has a heavy emphasis on child choice and um, children being in charge of themselves, even as children, even as tiny babies. And so that's where you put them down awake and they go to sleep. Um, so the example that we use is for PITC, you hold the baby and you look for cues that the child wants to be put down. And for RIE, you put the baby down and you look for cues that they want to be picked up. So it's the same goal, but coming from two different perspectives for caring for children. And so I think that's the same for any framework that you're going to be using. And so it's always good to, when you're interviewing and you're about to start at a school, that you look and you find out what the framework is that that school follows so that you can make sure it aligns with the value system that you have. Anybody else? Any other comments? I tell you, the most trouble I have is with people I work with. So I have a story ready to tell you about that later if it comes up. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here. You know, I got to change this because I can't see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go like that. And then I'm going to make this bigger. There. All right. So we're going to talk about classroom connections, roles and expectations, team vision, and personal connections. Oh, you guys can't see it. Like this. Maybe that's better. Yes. Okay, there. And this section, I added a bunch of stuff about suspensions and disproportionality. And there's what's due this week. So there's a lot of stuff due. There's an extra assignment due this week, and it's the end of tier 1A assignment. And what it is just there's so many good resources in the whole teaching pyramid, but to make you do all of it is overwhelming. And so I give you all this stuff. And so at the end, I want you to pick one that you're going to do and work through and turn that one in. And then I have a couple of questions for you to answer. And it kind of mimics what we would be doing in the training, because at the end of each section in the training, we answer a couple of questions based on that inventory of practice that I showed you at the beginning of the semester. And so so I listed the questions, and I gave you a list of handouts that you can turn in, and you just need to do one handout and answer the two questions. No, there's 4 questions, so it's really short. But I just wanted to. There's so many, like I said, there's so many good resources. I didn't want to miss any. Okay, I thought about offering like a badge, and then like if someone wanted to work through everything, they could get a badge, but I'm not quite there yet in my planning. Okay, so this week just one. Yeah, just one handout. And yeah, when I get to it, I can show it to you. And I listed them, I linked them all there to choose from. So there's no guessing which one you can use. And so there, I did a little video introducing everything. So this one for me was kind of dry. Like there aren't a lot of videos about teams working together that I could find. And so this is straight out of the book. And this part is it's on YouTube, and it's on the Challenging Behaviors website. That's the national teaching pyramid people. They've made quite a few videos, and so here's the second video on race, where they're talking about how to talk about race. So the first one was how to talk about race with parents, and this one is talking about race with children. And so I thought it was interesting, and I put it all there. And then there's another Hey, Did You Know about implicit bias? And then this is a video about suspensions. And so I put all the main takeaways there, a lot of them. And so what they bring up in this video is how they use the teaching pyramid as a tool for collecting data. Here's the last point here. For collecting data on implicit bias, and they're called the Behavior Incident Reporting System. And so what they do is they want you to write down observations of children and then use those to analyze what's going on in your classroom. And there's a whole system to this. They've got spreadsheets, like it's a whole thing. And so here's the overview of all of that. And it's just a little tiny piece just to introduce you to the concepts. But I've never been trained on it, so I have to go in deep and figure out exactly what would be beneficial for you all to know. But in general, this is what San Francisco calls a BOR, a Behavior Observational Report. And so I put this handout here to explain it some more. And so this is called, it's not here, but it's called the Equity Project or something like that, Teaching Pyramid Equity Project, where they use this system to help teachers become more aware of their biases. So all of us have biases. Everybody has bias in some way. And so if we're aware of it, then we can keep it under control and it doesn't control us. And so anyway, so they use these observation cards, and we in San Francisco use BORs, Behavior Observation Reports. And so later when we get to tier 3, I'll show you those. But I thought, why leave you hanging? And so I gave you this card in case you wanted to start collecting data for yourself about the children in your classroom. And then I was looking at all the the Teaching Pyramid Equity Project stuff. And so they showed this video, and some of you may have seen it. It's a pretty famous video, and it's about the danger of having a single story about somebody or something, and that there's many, many facets of who we are. And so anyway, it's a good video to watch. And here's some more information, and it's all in this PowerPoint. This is a really long PowerPoint. It's like 30 slides. And so these pieces are from it, these top here, and then down here are some more. Principles of culturally responsive teaching. And then here's another form. This one's really good. And the teaching pyramid, the San Francisco training has something similar to this, but this I think is, let me get this, is a lot easier to read and use. And so I thought this was good. So if you want tools to help you, to support you and the people in your team, to reflect on your culture and how you all get along together in your center, here's a great form. And so you write down the things, your values growing up, your values now, what your school organization values are, the student values, and the differences in all of those values. And so they have it on language, attitudes, gender roles, food, status of age, education, and dependence and interdependence. And that's a big one in childcare for sure. And so this is just a great form just to help us like look at all our differences and celebrate our difference and figure out how we can work together with all of those differences. Okay, and then there's some stuff in the book. And so I wrote a big long thing in here. Where, right here, this part here, I should put arrows or something. This is not in the book, where it says, I do want to caution you to not be limited by your zone. So this is Teacher Landy talking, not in the book. And as a coach, what happens in centers when things are not going well and there's a lot of infighting in teams, then what they do a lot is they require teachers to stand in certain parts of the room and serve the needs of the children in that part of the room. because maybe they were all in huddled together in one corner of the room ignoring children, or maybe they were taking breaks that were too long, or whatever they were doing that wasn't helping children, wasn't good for children. And so now their boss, the director or somebody, the head teacher, is making them stand in a certain part of the room so that they can focus on children instead of each other. And so what happens is that teacher gets really mad. The whole team is mad that they have to stay in their area, and then they're not flexible, and so they won't cross a certain line past their zone. And so then children aren't getting their needs met because people won't leave their zone because they don't want to be fired for leaving their zone. And so I wrote about it a little bit, and oh, this it's just so hard. So think of this when we're talking about these zones and a team matrix, and think of it as if you can't just be willy-nilly about who's doing what in the classroom, right? That's why we have a head teacher and teachers and assistants, right? Because they each have a different role. And we do that because certain things need to get done in the room. And so, for instance, when I was a teacher, my assistant, I would start circle time or large group time, they call it. And that's when my assistant thought it was a good time to leave and go do the laundry. But I didn't want her to leave and do the laundry. I needed help running the group. One person cannot run a group. And so I made her sit with me in the large group time and be with children. And she didn't like that. It took her like 3 months to get over that. And so there's like things that have to be established to just keep a room running and a team functioning, that this is what this is designed for. And so if you think of it in those terms and not this oppressive thing where you have to stay in one spot no matter what, this will go a lot better for you if you're new. Do any of you have any input, or have you had any experience in a center where you had to be still like that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, yeah. So whenever someone tells you to do the laundry, take some children with you. Take a ratio with you. Yeah. You should never be cleaning or folding laundry or anything without children doing it with you. And that's how they learn, right? Because before we had schools, right, people learned all that at home, and now they're not learning that at home because they spend all day at daycare. And so it's good for them. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. And so this was in the book, and I couldn't find, like, the book didn't give it to me as a handout. And so I screenshot it from a school that had their own. And it's something that they put on the wall. And so I've never seen this before because in San Francisco, they say we are helpful, we are kind, we are safe or gentle or whatever the word. They put the three virtues on the wall, and then we list what that means for each classroom underneath that. And so this is a little bit different, where it says, let me make it bigger. I'm really struggling with my computer today. Okay. You'll hear teachers comment positively. You'll see teachers have conversations. You'll know what is happening that day on the visual schedule, and you'll feel welcome when we greet you with verbal affection. And so I thought this was a really good idea. So again, it's straight out of the book, and I went and found it. And this school has a really good website, and they have a whole page on they call it guidance. And so that's what that link is. It's and you'll see how they um show examples from their school for all of the teaching pyramid stuff. Their demonstration school or whatever you want to call it. So it was really good. And then here's some more about the book. Another Hey Did You Know about that one. Oh, it was about birthdays. So just something to consider when you working, especially in really diverse populations of people, that there's going to be a lot of people who don't have the same values as you or the same cultural traditions as you, and so just be open to doing things differently than you might do normally, because we're all different, right? And so that's what that Hey Did You Know is about. And then I just have a couple of checklists and forms in here to help you again get to know each other, learn things about each other. And something that I like to do as a teacher is ask each other what, you always have to do those team building things, right? At the beginning of the year, you have to do team building activities. And so, one that I always like to do is you ask everybody to say a pet peeve. So sometimes it's a lot easier to say something that really bothers you instead of saying something that you really like. And so if everyone tells their pet peeve, then you can learn a lot about somebody. So for example, somebody said that their pet peeve is when people are late to work. Okay, now I know in my head that person is all about punctuality and being on time, and that they are offended when people come to work late. So if I'm going to make sure I'm not going to be late if I'm going to be in their classroom, I'm going to make sure I'm not going to take too long of a break because that really irritates that person. And so you can find out a lot when someone says what their pet peeve is. Do you guys have any pet peeves? I know that's an English word, pet peeve. It's something that really bothers you about something. It's a pet peeve. Oh, okay. She said she doesn't like being interrupted. Yeah, that could get on my nerves. Yeah, I'm a woman of few words. You wouldn't know it because of the way I talk in this class, but in general, I don't talk very much. Okay, next. This is the discussion, and several of you have already commented. And I went through already, and I pointed out the ones that were good PDAs, because there's still a few of you who don't um, aren't real sure about what a PDA is, and so I went through to point out the good ones. And here's your Reflect and Connect assignment, and it's the same thing. And we're working through chapter 4 this time. It's all about colleagues, and so that's nothing new. And then the next one is the new assignment that I'm only going to do at the end of each tier, each section of the systems here. And oh, I missed it. Let me see here. Reflect and connect. Oh, I know what I did. I put it at after the summary. Okay, so here's the summary of everything. And there's Linda Brault, if you guys were ever wondering. And in this video, she's walking everybody up the, the teaching pyramid, and she's going through the California website. So it's really good. See, it says walking up the pyramid. And so I have that for you in case you were interested in all that. And it was so much. The California website has expanded so much. I can't just pull a little piece of it. It does take a whole video to explain it now. And so there it is for you. And that's all new since the pandemic. And then here's the extra assignment. And these are the the handouts you can choose from. Just choose one, but you can choose more for extra credit if you want. And then the questions are here. These are from the inventory of practice. So, what do you want to do to develop meaningful relationships with children and family? And what do you need to do that? What supports or resources do you need? And then what do you want to do to examine your personal, family, and cultural views of a child's challenging behavior? And then what supports or resources would you need? And then an extra credit would be any extra handouts that you wanted to do. So do you guys have any questions about that? You doing okay? I have too many windows open and I can't see you guys. All right. So how does that feel for you? Does it feel like these assignments are helping you understand the pyramid more, or do they feel like busy work to you? Okay. Okay. All right. So just I really love that what you said. You're basically just trusting what I'm asking you to do, and at the end of it you're okay with it by the end of it. But in the middle it doesn't really make sense. I really appreciate that. Thank you for trusting me. Like yes, yes. And if you ever do anything wrong, I tell you how to fix it, right? I haven't had too many people totally misunderstand what I'm asking them to do. So far it's been pretty good from my perspective, but it could be great for me and terrible for you guys. And so I just want to make sure that this is a class that is useful and not just a bunch of busy work. And so it's really hard to quantify um, reflection and changing the way you think about something. And so that's what's hard for me. So, did anybody else have anything they want to add? Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense that you want to connect them to virtues. And that's because I skipped that part of the training because it's later in the training. And that's called PDA plus, where you connect the good thing they're doing with one of your three values that the whole school has decided on. And you're right, we didn't pick any as a class because it didn't occur to me. And so I really appreciate that. And so, yes, at the beginning, when you first start doing PDAs, they do sound stilted or awkward or mechanical. But over time, you're gonna get better at it, and it's gonna be more normal. And so just keep doing it. And um, I don't know, um, I don't know how else to say it, but That's what it's called. It's called PDA Plus. PDA Plus. And so we're going to get to it. Okay. All right. So that's everything that I had. That's all the important things I had to say. Again, I wanted to leave this time for people to talk and think about. Some people need to process out loud. And if you're that kind of person, that's what's happening right now. But you don't have to be here to do it if that's not how you learn. But I just wanted to make myself available. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording, and I can keep talking if we need to talk. Here.